What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Hostile Q&A, and we are back, and I want to address the elephant in the room before we continue. I've gotten a lot of messages from you guys about Luke and Luke's passing, and I just want to say thank you to everybody. It was impossible to respond to everybody who messaged me. I think there was, I don't know, like 1,000 DMs or something. Yeah, I just kind of liked your responses. I read them all. It was impossible to respond, but I just want to say I really appreciate the messages. And I also want to say it is amazing to me how much of an impact Luke had on everybody, or me and Luke had on everybody in our podcast. The messages are actually unbelievable to read. So I just want to address this first and get it out of the way. I've been having a tough time trying to get back to work and get back to like normal life. So this is kind of the first thing I'm doing to take a step in the right direction and to kind of get moving back. I don't think Luke would want me to sit around and as he would say, get stringy. So I'm going to try my hardest not to get stringy and keep on moving forward and hope that he's watching over and he's happy with what he sees and the response that he's gotten. So anyway, we'll move on. We'll get into the Q&A. I want to answer your questions. I just also want to apologize, guys. This Q&A was posted like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there's absolutely no excuse. I'm going to get this done today, and I'm going to try and answer all the questions. And then from now on, moving forward, when we post a Q&A, it'll be done that day or the day after, and it'll be posted for you guys. This won't happen again. It's just things have been really busy and crazy. So let's get to it. All right. So the first question is, Marsh Mac 550 says, I feel as though I'm a lifetime dieter with very little success. At times, my body just refuses to lose weight, even when I'm on a program and counting calories and weighing my food. Is it a bad idea to just be like, fuck it? Meaning I'm just going to eyeball everything and not enter into a macro calculator. Is this ideal? And is there a suggested length of time to maintain this break should last? Okay, so first off, I'm just going to say one thing to anybody out there who's dieting. You cannot diet properly if you don't know how many calories you're supposed to be taking in and how many calories you are taking in. I don't think eyeballing it is a good idea. If you're already on a calorie counting type situation, you have to look at what you're counting. Are you counting the right amount of calories? Have you looked at your own physique and have you done the equation properly for how much calories you're supposed to be taking in? Because that's a factor, right? Sometimes people do that equation wrong and they actually end up eating a surplus, or they cut too much and they're too far a deficit and their body just stops burning fat. So you have to know what your body is. So I would like where your basal metabolic rate would be. And so what I suggest is get onto Google, type in William Harris Benedict equation, fill in all the numbers for that equation and find out what your calorie count for the day is supposed to be. If you're allowed to take in 2,500 calories, set it at 24. Don't set it at 2,000. Don't try and burn a ton of calories all at once, because what's going to happen is your body's going to start to stall out. So set it at just 2,400. And then you're going to be doing cardio on top of that. So 2,500 might be your resting calories for the day. Once you add cardio, that's going to be, obviously your energy expenditure with training and cardio could go up to 28, 29, 3,000, depending on how much calories you're burning. So if you set it at 24, you have a good deficit there. And you have to know, if you start trying to eyeball things, I've done that before, and you're going to get hungry, and 1 teaspoon of peanut butter might all of a sudden turn into 1 tablespoon. Half a cup of rice might turn into a cup. And you're never going to have a proper gauge of what you're doing. You have to know what you're eating. You have to know what you're taking in if you're going to achieve any success. Every single person I know on the pro level, amateur level, anybody competing, anybody who does the type of diet that will get them shredded and get them the six-pack that you guys all want, knows exactly what they're eating. They know exactly the calories they're eating. They know exactly their macros. They measure everything they're eating, and that's the best way to do it, because then you can tell what you're doing from day to day. If you're not losing weight, If you're eating 2,400, you're not losing weight, you go to 2,350. Maybe you look at your training. Maybe you're not training hard enough. Maybe you're kind of fucking around the gym. You're just pissing around and talking to this guy and talking to that guy. You're not breaking a sweat. Maybe your cardio is too light. Maybe you took steady state too far and now you're just kind of walking along and you're barely sweating. Like, got to get that heart rate up. Got to train your ass off. You have to look at all of these different variables, because this is the thing about a program. It's not just one thing. Maybe your calories are fine. Maybe you're in the right calorie space, but your training sucks. So look at all the different variables and try and get very specific with each one and where it's going. But as far as your question about eyeballing things, I don't think that's the way to go. The Prince Roy says, which subs do you consider essential for a natty meathead? Whether you're natty or not is irrelevant to me. I think there isn't really any essential supplements. Like you can grow and you can burn fat and you can achieve whatever goal you want without supplements. They're not a must. But there's a lot of things in bodybuilding that aren't a must. But the thing is, people who do everything they can to reach a goal will reach a goal far faster than the person who does the bare minimum. So when we say adding supplements helps, it's just an extra 5%, 10%, right? Like, you may reach the goal the same I will, but I may reach it faster if I put every piece of the puzzle in place. So as far as that goes, the supplements I think are essential are a protein powder, which Hosstile is actually working on currently. We should have it out in a couple months. I don't use a lot of shakes, but usually when I don't feel like eating, I need a protein shake. So that's what we're coming out with, a protein shake. Usually post-workout, I don't feel like eating as much. Maybe I'm a little bit nauseous from my workout. That's where a protein shake goes. So I feel like that's an essential thing. Pre-workouts for me are essential. I really like to get nasty pumps when I'm training. I don't like just kind of going in and feeling it. I like to really feel like the muscle is blown out. Sometimes I need a little boost of energy. Pre-workouts are every day, and that's why we started with them, because it's like every day I take one, like either the stim or non-stim. Every day I take one. And then we are going to be working on a vitamin supplement, like a greens or vitamin supplement soon in the future. So that will be essential as well. I think a good essential amino acid is probably essential. I mean, it's in the name, I guess. So the things we have on our list are essential to me. The intra R3 is probably a luxury item. Not everybody needs an intra workout. Depends how hard you train. If you train really hard, you need one. But I think the most important things, like I said, are probably a protein powder, a pre-workout, vitamin mineral supplement, and then you kind of drops off from there a little bit for me. Granmo Lifestyle says, so I'm now officially doing the bulk. I went from 1,800 cut plan to 3,400 calorie bulk plan. I'm afraid to eat so much. What are some tricks to eating big meals without feeling so bloated? Well, okay. I'm going to give you the overarching theme is there are no tricks. You're always going to be bloated if you're bulking, because if you're bulking properly, it means you're eating. If you're trying to break a plateau, you're probably eating more than your body wants to eat. So you're kind of forcing food a little bit. So you're not going to be comfortable. I tell people all the time, if you're bulking properly, you're probably not going to be comfortable. You're probably going to be a little uncomfortable. You're probably going to be a little bloated. You're going to be a little chubby. It's the nature of bulking. It's the nature of putting on a lot of mass quickly. I don't care what anybody says to me. I don't think anybody who's gained a lot of muscle will ever tell you that bulking is not important. Okay. The people that are out there saying you don't have to bulk, they're not big guys. So I'm sorry to tell you guys, man. I'm sorry to tell you guys. The bigger guys in the world, the bigger guys in the sport, the bigger guys you see with a lot of muscle, and I mean a lot of muscle. I'm not talking like, 200 pounds. You can get to 200 pounds without bulking hard. But it's not even necessarily about the weight. It's more about how much weight, right? So anyway, I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but I do think it's important to bulk. And if you are bulking, you're going to feel that discomfort. Now, there are some things you can do to limit the discomfort a little bit. If you're bulking, eating a lot of fat is going to make you feel way more bloated, right? So if you have a diet and it's heavy in fats, whether it be healthy fats or not, that's going to satiate you. So if you eat a meal and it's like, let's say you eat 6 whole eggs, a cup of oatmeal and you put a tablespoon of peanut butter in the oatmeal. Well, now you have like 30 grams of fat from the eggs or more, and you have 15 to 20 grams of fat from the peanut butter, plus the fiber from the oatmeal. This is all going to sit in your stomach. So one of the things I did was actually reduce my fiber intake when I was bulking. So I would eat like white rice instead of brown rice. I would eat white potato instead of sweet potato. I would eat things that were going to digest quickly. I would reduce the amount of fat and add as much carbs as I could until I needed more calories. Then I would start to add a little bit of fat in, and just a little bit. And it would always be healthier fats I knew were going to digest a little bit better for me, because saturated fats seem to digest the slowest. So if I wanted to add fats, I would add like coconut oil, which has saturated fat in it, but it's also a medium chain triglyceride. So I felt like it always digested really quickly for me. Even though avocados have a little bit of fiber in them, I felt like they always digested pretty quickly for me. They never really affected me a ton. Peanut butter, I felt like just kind of binds me up. Everything sits in my gut. So if you're going to bulk, there is going to be an overall feeling of bloat and discomfort, but reducing fiber, eating the proper fats that your body can handle, not doing a ton of salt, doing some salt, but not like crazy. You have to do these little things. And then obviously the biggest thing of all of them is probably reducing as much junk as you can. If you're cheating once a night, your bulk is going to be very hard. Okay. Your body's not going to be processing food. Your gut biome is going to be all off. If you're cheating once or twice a week, you're going to be far better. Everything's going to be clicking a lot better. Okay. So try to stay on your diet, keep eating as clean as possible, schedule your cheat meals 1 or 2 a week. Don't make them binge meals, make them cheats. Try and find fats that are agreeable with you and don't overdose them. And then accept the fact that you're going to be bloated, because your body is you're trying to break a plateau. When you're bulking, the reason we bulk is, let's say the first time I bulk, I'm 200 pounds. My body's comfortable at 200 pounds. I'm good. My body's like, okay, cool, we're 200 pounds. If I just eat a little bit and train, yeah, I'll put on a little bit of muscle. I'm going to put on 2 pounds that whole year. Awesome. I put on 2 pounds. But if I want to break that plateau, that comfort, if I want to like really press my body to push itself to the limit, then I'm going to have to eat to a place of discomfort to get my body to go through that plateau that it's stuck in. So don't be scared of food. Don't be scared of getting a little chubby. Don't get fat and sloppy. But add in a little bit of cardio too. Sorry, that's another thing you can do to help keep the bloat at bay and keep your appetite strong. Doing a little bit of cardio 3 or 4 times a week, half an hour a day, will also help. Marshmack 550 says, is pain and soreness indicative of having a good training session? What are in gym indicators that you've stimulated the muscle body part enough for growth? So in my opinion, pain and soreness are an indicator of a good workout, but obviously to a certain degree. If you're sore for like 6 days, like I used to train legs back in the day, and I would be sore for like 6 or 7 days. Like honestly, I would be sore until the 6th day, and then the 7th day it was time to train legs again. So if you're that kind of sore, you're probably going too hard. You need to pull back a little bit to get your body to recover faster so you can train again. I think if I don't feel any soreness, I feel like something's wrong. I either am used to my workout, I'm not pushing hard enough, I'm not demanding enough of my body, my form is off, something, or maybe I need new exercise selection. I feel like there has to be some soreness, even if it's a day of soreness, for me to feel, and that's my own personal feeling. Like for me to feel like I had a good workout and I really did what I was supposed to do, I need to feel sore the next day. But like I said, if it's sore for 4, 5, 6 days, then I have to clue in and go, okay, next time go pull back just a little bit. And during your workout, if you're not getting a pump, like when I train, I feel swollen. Like if I'm training chest, my chest feels swollen, like it feels big and full. And if you're not getting that, you're not training hard enough. You're either not training hard enough, you're not training heavy enough, you're not training, maybe you're taking too long a break in between sets. There are a lot of indicators, but to me, the biggest indicator of a good workout is your pump. And how long your pump lasts. If you train super, super light with tons and tons of reps, you can get an awesome pump. But that pump will probably wear off pretty quickly, right? But if you train heavy with high volume, your pump will last a lot longer. And I feel like it's a deeper, you're doing more damage to the muscle and creating more trauma for it to regrow bigger. So the indicators in the gym for me are my pump and how long it lasts. And that tells me how good my workout was at the time. And then the next day and days afterwards, my soreness will indicate to me how much damage I actually did. Next question. Typical meathead says, honestly, my question when you begin pre-contest diet, do you or Luke change your training style at all? I can speak for Luke on this. I know he doesn't. He had started changing it at the end. He would go a little bit lighter to try and preserve his muscle and avoid any type of injury. And for me, my training style doesn't change at all. I don't train heavy enough like Luke did to warrant changing anything. I'm pretty steady all the way through, whether I'm dieting or not. Terra Never 16 says, on a cut, are you expected to lose a lot of strength? I noticed my bench especially just got weaker and weaker. Well, if you're cutting too far, so I feel like if you're cutting all the way to show prep, like if you're getting all the way down to like single digits, like low single digit body fat, you're going to lose strength. There's no doubt. You're not going to be able to bench the same weight at 2% body fat as you are at 10% body fat. It's just not going to happen. And part of the reason for that is you're cutting a lot of calories. So your glycogen stores are really low. You're probably you're salting your food and you're doing your best, but your body's not retaining as much glycogen. So you don't have as much power in your press or whatever movement you're doing. So it's normal to lose strength. Now, that's only at the end of a prep. If you're losing strength, and it shouldn't be like it shouldn't be extremely drastic. Like if I can bench 4 plates at the start of a prep, I should be able to still bench that 4 plates all the way up until 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and then I'm going to start to pull back and I might lose some strength, but it's more you're going to lose strength in reps, not in press. So I might still be able to do 4 plates, but the first thing I'll see happen is it'll go from 10 reps to 8 reps. Then I'll go to 6 reps and I'll be like, okay, I better take some weight off the bar. And that's when I'll start to see, 3.25, and I'll do that. And then the reps will drop for that to 8 to 6. Then I'll have to drop again to 3 plates. And you'll start to see that strength reduce as you get super, super lean. But in the first stages, if you're still 8% body fat, you should be eating if you're cutting too many calories, you're going to get weak really fast. So that's one indicator that you've cut way too much. If your strength has just like disappeared, you've cut way too many calories. You need to refeed your body and you need to set up your diet better so that you don't lose so much strength so quickly. Because in my opinion, loss of strength is loss of muscle. So if you're in a depleted state and your strength is in the toilet for a long period of time, you're burning up muscle. Okay. That means you're burning up muscle. You're not feeding the muscle. You're just training and you're destroying it. And that tells me you need to eat more food so that your strength is there and you're losing weight at a slower rate. Yepit Somar says, what is your take on fitness trackers, Apple Watch, Fitbit, etc.? I think it's great. I think it's good to have one. I don't have one personally, but I think if you're the type of person that has trouble being motivated, or you need to track everything you do every day so that you can be motivated to do more the next day, or at least so you know how much you're doing so you can keep it level, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's a great idea. Anything that will help you, man. Pinnacle Mentality says, doing single arm dumbbell rows. I know my back is strong enough to pull a fair amount, but it seems like if I grab anything heavier than a 70, my core gets this awkward pull sensation and it kind of messes with my breathing. Not sure if this is a weak core issue or maybe a technique problem. Have you or your clients had any similar issues? So I haven't had that issue myself, and it's really hard to address it like just in talking. But if you check out the rest of our page here at Hosstile, we do a series called the Vault series, and I think there's one on dumbbell rows. So what you should do is look that video up and see how I have Terry, which is one of our athletes, doing the dumbbell row. And if your form is exactly like that and you're still not feeling good, in my opinion, not every exercise is for everybody. If your form is perfect and it just sucks for you, you don't feel anything, or it's like you can't do it properly because of whatever reason, just don't do it. Nobody said you have to dumbbell row to get a big back. Barbell row, T-bar row, deadlift, rack deads, pull downs, reverse pull downs. There's a million back exercises, cable rows. Like, if dumbbell row is the only thing you can't do, dump it. Don't do it. I don't know if it's that great anyway. It's a good exercise, but most of the time I see people doing it, it's more they're pulling with their arm, they're pulling with their rear delt, they're pulling with their torso. It's not a lot of times I see people doing a lat row where they're actually using their lat anyway. So just dump the movement and do a barbell row, T-bar row, cable row. It doesn't matter. Do all three and just leave that one out. So, but check out the Vault series if you really want to learn how to do it, and see what we've done for the form there, and then just copy that yourself. Would you rather do, Utz VK says, would you rather do cheat meals twice a week or have one cheat day per week? So my opinion is having a cheat day is a little bit pointless. I don't think anybody needs a whole day of cheating. You could do like a cheat day, like refeed, where it's all clean food and you just bumped up all your calories for the whole day. That's different. But if you're talking about like just eating donuts and shit and McDonald's and pizza, whatever, all day long, I feel like that's kind of counterproductive. It doesn't really do anything. It's just I used to do it. It doesn't do anything. It's not that it doesn't do anything. You don't need that much. So if you have a good diet, having one really good cheat meal will usually give you the bump you need to get the benefit of some shitty food. You don't need a whole day worth of shitty food. I think 2 cheats a week. Usually I do a Wednesday and Saturday. Wednesday is like a cleaner cheat, something usually I might make at home. Like I'll do like a pasta with ground beef and meat sauce with olive oil, and I'll just make it as good as I can. I'll put Parmesan cheese on everything, and I'll have like a massive bowl of it. That might be Wednesday. And then Saturday I'll do something dirty. I might do pizza, I might do McDonald's, I might do Five Guys. That's my like shitty night out. And that's how I separate it. But I don't think anybody needs like a whole day of cheating. Jason Rizza says, hi Fouad, I was wanting to ask you why pork or lamb is never used in diets as a protein source for bodybuilding. Well, lamb I think is expensive. I think also it's a very fatty meat. And pork, I just don't eat pork. I grew up, my parents are Muslim. I'm not really religious, but we never really ate pork in the house. So I just never got a taste for it. So I don't really buy pork at all. I just don't eat it, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think if you like pork, it's a good protein source. Anybody can use it. Polywally 714 says, can you tell us again which of your pre-workouts to stack and which ones not to stack? So I don't think you should stack Bloodshot and Hostility. There are a lot of nitrates in both, so stacking them together could be dangerous. Like, you don't need all those nitrates all together. So what I do is I stack Hostility with Intra R3, and that's the reason for that is you do the pre-workout Hostility, and the Intra R3 is the during your workout, and it carries you right through until your post-workout meal. The other benefit of the Intra R3 is it has carbs in it to extend your pump. It has the essential aminos in it to be muscle sparing. It has some Pico 2 to help with focus and endurance, and it also has other ingredients like tyrosine and things like that. So I think the Intra R3 is beneficial for someone who's training really hard, but I also think the other benefit is because it has 8 grams of essential aminos, you don't have to rush to have a post-workout shake right away. You can have your pre-workout meal, then have your pre-workout Hostility or Bloodshot, whichever one you desire. And then you do your Intra R3 during your workout. And then when you get home, you've already had 8 grams of essential aminos in your intra workout. So you don't have to rush to have a protein shake. You can wait half an hour. You can make a real food meal if you want. Like sometimes I'll come home and have steak and rice because I know I don't need to get that immediate rush of calories because I just got it in my intra workout. Like while I was training, I was drinking that. So that's the benefit to the intra R3 is it's kind of, I guess the theory behind it is you're kind of filling that anabolic window while you're training so that your muscle is never really starving for nutrients. So that's the theory behind why we do it, along with the other things I noted. But the Hostility has a little bit of stimulants in it. So those of you who want like the super mental focus with the alpha JPC and a little bit of stim with the 300 milligrams of caffeine, that's the way you're going to go. For those of you who don't need that super, there's a little bit of focus in the bloodshot. We have the Huperzine A. But if you don't want the stimulants, then you're going to go with the bloodshot. The bloodshot is also more pump focused. So I've actually been using bloodshot the last week. My pumps have been crazy. Like I'm talking, I did hamstrings the other day. I think like 3 sets in, I had like this massive pump, and it's just a great product. So try out the bloodshot if you're not like a heavy stim, if you're not somebody who needs heavy stims. Ilya Milos says, can you explain how after a cheat meal, we wake up the next day lighter than the day before, even though we are dieting and ate more calories than usual? It could be just a matter of cranking your metabolism up. Um, it's not unheard of if you're eating way too little, or if you're eating like, not enough food, and all of a sudden you spike your body with some food. You crank up your metabolism, you wake up the next day a little bit lighter. You might also be flushing out water, because if you take an influx of sodium in, it might help you actually flush some water out of your body, so you wake up the next day lighter, but you look better because your glycogen stores are more full. So that's probably the best explanation to why it happens. So my opinion is it's usually just water weight. It's not like you had a cheat meal and you burned fat. It's more likely that you had an influx of sodium, it caused you to flush more water, and you woke up a little bit lighter the next day. Kadir Haroon says, will you be coming out with a chocolate powdered and a double fruit supplement? I don't know about the double fruit supplement, but I think we'll be doing a chocolate flavored protein, of course. Strength coach JD says, currently doing carb cycling, trying to bulk while staying fairly lean because I'm a student athlete and coaches don't want to see me too heavy. Is this something you'd recommend, or some other method? Are my low carb days killing my gains? No, I don't actually. You know what? For those of you who want to stay lean in the off season, like if you're trying to bulk and still stay lean, I think carb cycling is a really good idea, because as long as your low days aren't way too low, like I would keep that around, like let's say your daily metabolic rate is 2,500 calories. I would keep your low day close, like 2,400 calories, and your medium day, try and get it bang on. And in your high day, I would go up 200, 300 calories. You're not going to get fat. As long as you're not, I think if you do that and you're not cheating with a lot of garbage food, I don't think you'll get fat. I think actually carb cycling is a great way to stay leaner while trying to put on some muscle. You may even want to put all 3 of those days in a surplus and see what happens. You might not get fat, but you might make even more gains. So you could do your low day at 2,500, your medium day at 27, and or 2,750, and your high day at 3,000. See what happens. And if you're still not gaining fat, bump them all up even more until you start seeing yourself get softer. I would keep bumping that carb cycle up until you're like, okay, I see now it's starting to go the wrong way. I'm going to pull it back down a little bit. And I think it's a great way to stay lean in the off season. Godden3 says, how has your training changed the last 5 years, and what do you think will change in the next 5? Well, I don't go as crazy as I used to. I think in the last 5 years, I've toned down my training, because I used to go to like real hard failure on a lot of sets during my workouts. And now I just go to failure on like the last set of each exercise. So that's a major change. And I think I don't lift as heavy. I used to do sets of 6, 4 sometimes, but sets of 6. And now my sets are all 8 to 10s, 12s, 15s for legs, sometimes 30. So my training's changed quite a bit. It was much more reckless, dangerous, and I was aiming to try and destroy my body every time I trained. And I did. I actually tore a lot of muscle, and I went through a lot of injuries, and now I've kind of scaled back and trying to put that muscle back on while being smarter in the process and not being so reckless. Anthony Pedri says, are the nutrition labels on various meats on the grocery store, example, ground beef, for cooked or raw weights of those meats? Those are for raw weights, but I weigh all my food cooked because it's easier. Like if I'm going to bulk cook, this is the thing. Let's say I have a chicken breast, right? Let's say I buy a pack of chicken, a value pack of 8 chicken breasts. I'm going to cook it all at once. Now, how am I going to weigh it? I'm going to weigh it cooked. Instead of guessing what the amount is, I just go on calorieking.com and type in 8 ounces of cooked chicken or chicken breast cooked, whatever, and then look up 8 ounces, and then that's your amount. So to me, I do all my macro counting cooked because 1, I cook all my stuff in bulk and it's already cooked and I got to weigh it. And 2, because that chicken breast is going to probably expel 2 ounces of water in the process of cooking. So I don't want to weigh it raw and then try and guess what it weighs later. I'm just going to weigh everything cooked, and that's the way I do things. Ericist7 says, if you were to strain the meat after cooking, does it make a difference to buy 90-10 lean ground beef and like 70-30 ground beef? I think straining the meat helps a little bit, not that much. It's not going to be like, you can't get like a 70-30 and strain it and then expect it to be 90-10 because the fat's in the meat. So I think if you have to buy 70-30, it's a good idea to strain it, but I don't think it's going to equal a 90-10 after you've done that. So just my opinion. The protein post says, when cooking, eating chicken, do you eat the egg white kind of stuff that comes with the chicken after it's being cooked, or do you clean it off the chicken? Is it chicken fat? I don't really know what you mean. If it's what I think you mean, it's gross and I don't eat it and I cook it. I don't really get egg white kind of stuff with my chicken. If you are, it's probably skin or fat. And I personally wouldn't eat it. Jolder says, what are some quick to go to snack meals that take a little prep time for when I'm out on the go looking for a good amount of protein, but the carbs and fats can be played with? I always did a shake, man. You know what? Like when I used to work full time and I was getting ready, I was trying to become a pro, I used to do just a shake in a cup. I'd take my shaker cup, I'd put 1 cup of oatmeal in there, and I would put 2 scoops of protein, and that was my go-to. I wouldn't put any water in it. I'd just take it with me. I'd have a bottle of water separate. And about 10 minutes before I wanted to eat, or 20 minutes before I wanted to eat, I'd pour the bottle of water in with the protein and the oatmeal, and I'd shake it up. And the oatmeal would get soft and like chewy. So it was kind of like when I was drinking my protein shake, I would be chewing the oatmeal. It's kind of gross to think about, but I would eat the protein that was soaked in protein powder. So that was my go-to for whenever if I knew I was going to have food, I always had 1, 2, or 3 of those with me to make sure I always had some protein and carbs with me at all times. So that's really the easiest, fastest way to go about it. Nowadays, you can just buy the ready to drink protein drinks. You can buy those, and then carbs are easy, man. You can get a bagel at Tim Hortons or whatever you want, or something at Starbucks, like a baked good of some sort. Carbs are always simple. It's the protein that you have to be wary of. El Rabai says, is the process of cutting harmful health-wise? I like you deprive water and carbs for a long time. Okay, well, that's a misconception. We don't deprive water for a long period of time. Carbs are not essential. So first I'll touch on the water. When we get ready for a show, we don't deprive water at all. In fact, I drink a lot more water, and it actually is very healthy. Like the way, if you think about it, you're kind of purging your body every day because we sweat so much. So all those toxins are coming out of our bodies in our sweat. And then we're cleansing with like fresh water. So we actually drink a lot more water when we're dieting. The only time we cut water is the last day to, at the most I've heard people cutting water is 3 days, but that's kind of old school. Nobody does that anymore. Even some people don't even cut for 1 day anymore. They're still sipping on water throughout the whole process. So the water thing is no big deal. The carb thing, restricting carbs is not unhealthy. There's nothing essential about carbs. Having a little bit of sugar in your body is good for brain activity, but your body can convert protein into that glucose that it needs on its own. So you don't actually have to have any carbs to function. You could, if every carb was wiped off the earth from right now, for the rest of eternity, we would all survive just fine and probably all be very shredded. Actually, we'd probably all be very healthy too, because overloading sugar and carbs is actually the root of a lot of disease. So it's not unhealthy at all to have a carb-free diet. Now, can you grow and be huge and massive without carbs? I don't think so. I've never really seen anybody develop into a professional level bodybuilder without having any carbs in their diet. So that is actually a part of our job. But as far as health goes, no, you don't have to have any carbs. Justin Alia says, hey man, do y'all plan on pushing products to Rock's Discount Vitamins in South Texas? And do you plan on adding grains of paradise into some line one day? Okay. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to talk to Rock's Discount in South Texas, and we'll see how that goes. Chicago Eric says, I love your podcast. I'm a 50-year-old powerlifter and have been using Redcon 1 for a while. They have a stack for mass and strength and was wondering if you do. But I'm like you, even though I do powerlifting, I want to be as big as possible. When I walk into a room, I want people to go, holy shit. Okay, well, this is, we're a little different. I actually don't want people to even see me when I walk into a room. But it's okay. Some people want to be huge and want everybody to know they're huge. So that's cool too. But we don't have a mass and strength product per se. We have pre-workouts that have strength products in them and pump products in them. We don't have a mass product. A mass product is going to be something obviously like a mass shake or something like that. We don't currently have that. We're in our process. I mean, look, we launched March 11th was our launch date. We didn't ship any products until April 15th, I think. So we're not even a month old yet. So we'll have all of those products soon enough. We're working on growing our line. We're working on growing our product base. We're working on building out our athlete base. It's a very, very new company, and you guys are going to see us grow in time, and it's going to take time, but eventually we will have a full line of products, full line of flavors, a full athlete roster, and it's all just going to come as things grow. Nanny says, give us some tips on how to maintain muscle or even gain some during Ramadan. It's going to be tough during Ramadan. You're going to have to fast, obviously, from dusk till dawn. So I don't think it's very conducive to gaining muscle. As far as maintaining muscle, there's nothing really you can do. You're going to fast all day. And then after you break your fast, you're going to eat every 2 hours, just like anybody else. It's not any different. But I would suggest having bigger meals, because if you're going to break your fast at like 6 or 7, then you only have like a few hours before you go to bed. So you're going to have maybe 3 meals. They're going to be a little bit bigger. And then your pre-fast meal at at dusk is going to be obviously bigger too, because it's going to be a really, 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 really big breakfast before you start your fast. So if you get 3 meals in, or 4 meals, or maybe you might get in 5, I doubt it. But if you get in four big meals a day, you might be able to maintain all of your muscle and be okay. But I don't think it's really a good time to worry about gaining muscle. Grandma Lifestyle says, as the pandemic turns for the better and we start to move from home workouts back to the gym, would it be better to start out with moderate weight or just go back to balls out for the first few weeks back? You don't have to like gauge. You're only going to be so strong, right? If you haven't been lifting with heavy weight this whole time while you've been off, if you were benching 3 plates on the bench press before the pandemic and you didn't do any benching while you're off, you're not probably just going to walk in the gym and be able to bench the 315 even if you want to. So you're going to have to go back to lifting what you can, as balls to the wall as you can, right? So I don't think you should go back to the gym and be like, well, I got to take it easy because we just got back. So I'm just going to lift like really easy and I'm not going to break a sweat and I'm just going to go home. That's bullshit. You're going to go to the gym and you're going to go crazy. You're going to lift your ass off and you're going to train as hard as you can within a proper rep range. And then as you get stronger, you're going to build that strength back up. So I don't want anybody to get injured because of my advice. I just think when you're ready to go back, you're going to go back and you're going to train as hard as you can, as cautiously as possible, to make sure that you don't hurt yourself at all. The protein post. Thoughts on Rich Piana's Bigger by the Day program? I'm not really familiar with it. Sorry. Hugh 616 says, is there a difference between thumbless and normal grip? I think it's a comfort thing personally. I don't think there's a huge difference. On some lifts, I'll go thumbless, and on some lifts, I use a normal grip. It just depends on what you're comfortable doing. Grizzly Gym Rat, I want to stay natural, but keep hearing that saying 260 pounds and losing 10% body fat is not achievable. What are your thoughts? I don't know if I read this wrong, but it sounds like you're saying you want to be 260 pounds at 10% body fat, and anything is achievable. I'm not going to say it's not. I don't know any 260 pounders that are lean, that are natural, I think. But I don't know. Anything's possible. I'm not going to say it's not possible. Anything is possible. Zonelix says, I'm 6 feet, 255 at about 20% body fat, not trying to maximize muscle gain. Just want to look good at 220. Would fasting be good to do, or a bodybuilding meat and rice type diet better? I'm always going to point to the bodybuilding diet. I like eating to lose weight. I know that's probably sounds like an oxymoron to a lot of you, but eating to lose weight is the way to go if you want to look good. I think if you just want to lose weight, then yeah, fast and lose weight. But I think when you go from that 255 to 220, if you just did it by fasting, you might not look better at 220. You'd probably be smaller. You might fit into your clothes better. But as far as your look, you still might have that like soft appearance that you have at 255. So I'm not a big advocate for fasting. I think as bodybuilders, we need to eat and feed the muscle. I'm more of an advocate of train as hard as you can, feed the muscle, and be in a small deficit to keep your body burning fat, right? But you got to use the food to help you burn fat, because what you want to do is hold on to as much muscle as possible while you're burning fat, right? The more muscle you can hold on to, the faster you will burn fat. If you start just cutting all your calories out or fasting or whatever, and you're burning muscle in the process of burning fat, it's going to be this never ending circle down a drain. The more fat you lose, the more muscle you lose, the less you can eat, right? So you're just like, okay, I lost 2 pounds of muscle. Now my caloric intake for the day has gone down. Oh, now I lost 2 more pounds of muscle. Now I have to eat even less to lose weight. And you have to keep eating less and less and less. Whereas if you eat to keep your muscle, the fat will keep coming off. It will take you longer to do it, for sure. It's harder to do, but your body will look better at the end, and you'll burn the fat much faster, keep it off in the future when you try to do it again. Nick Cap says, how close to your workout do you suggest taking a pre-workout? I take mine about 15 minutes, 20 minutes before. HMB Muscle says, Hostility landed today. Can't wait to test it out. We'll definitely do a review, post it up. Okay. Now time for my question. How often do you train? I have a thick waist. How often do you train abs, core, and off season? Do you use any weighted ab exercises? Okay, so HMB Muscle is asking me to help with his waist because he has a thick waist and I have a thick waist. And I will tell you this, I have not figured it out yet, but I can tell you from everybody who has told me that just doing vacuums every day and eating foods that are beneficial to your body so that your stomach is not inflamed is part of the equation. And the other part of the equation is doing vacuum. And Luke told me this too, doing vacuums every single day, twice a day is the way to do it. It's going to take 6 months to a year, but it helped everybody I know says it helped them bring their stomach tighter and bring that vacuum in. Oh, the last thing you do to help keep your waist in check is get a waist trainer. Okay. The waist trainer I use is actually really good. It's by Skinny Roadie. It'll be the info will be in the description. It's SKINNYROTI.com. And then use my code. My code's just Fouad. And those waist trainers, because they have clips, they actually make them a little bit shorter so they sit under your lats, and they have the steel clips to keep your waist tight. I don't think waist trainers work in the sense of like how you used to in the mid ages, where they used to like cinch them so tight that it crushed your organs. I think waist trainers work because they keep you mentally focused on holding your stomach in. So you're kind of contracting that muscle all day long, which actually when you take it off, you can feel the difference. Your stomach feels smaller. So I think it's a benefit that way. Let's see. Yari 513 says, have you ever had any issue with RX anti-inflammatory meds causing swelling, puffy look while trying to diet down? I don't really take anti-inflammatory meds at all, so I don't know. If you're talking about like antibiotics, I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, but antibiotics can cause swelling and a puffy look. But I don't know about anti-inflammatories. I try to stay away from those as much as possible. Matt Bright 10 says, what reps, sets, and weight decreases do you make during the off season? Is it best to rest a few weeks, then instant big weight and reps? I'm not sure what that means. What reps, set, and weight increases do you make during the off season? I increase weight whenever I feel strong enough to. I'm not sure what that means. Like, my rep ranges and my sets are pretty standard throughout the week. I don't, or throughout my off season, I don't really change. I don't do like 5 sets sometimes, or 5 reps sometimes, and then 15 reps others. My stuff's pretty stable. And I increase weight when I can. If I have 3 plates on a bar and I feel like I can do 3 1/4, I'm going to do 3 1/4. That's kind of, I don't, I don't, I don't make it overly tough, man. Like, I never have. I go in and train. I train my ass off, and I add weight when I can. I train as hard as I can to keep getting stronger, and when I get stronger, I add weight. That's it. There's no time. I'm not like, oh, it's November, now I got to add weight, or it's December, now I got to add weight. No, I'm strong today, I'm going to fucking add weight. That's kind of how I think about it. Tom Williams 1205 says, products have been getting great reviews all over the place. Can't wait for them to land in the UK. Haas, are you still tempted to invest in your own gym, or your friends in the future? Your own gym or your friend? Yes, I actually do want to open my own gym one day. Just a matter of time. We'll see how things go. The Bodybuilding and Bollocks page says Intra R3 has 15 grams of cluster dextrin. Aside from supporting performance and improving recovery, I hear it actually promotes fat burning as well. Is that due to cluster dextrin helping you to just exercise long enough to burn fat, or is there actual ingredients in that burns fat? I have not been told that cluster dextrin helps you burn fat. That might be a research paper that you read that I may not have come across. It's not actually the reason why we have it in there. But if it does, it's something I can look up and let you guys know about. I don't know of cluster dextrin's fat burning properties. Jacob KB says, would you count the steps you take at work as effective cardio? No, I wouldn't. Typically 8+ miles. I don't know. You know what? To me, cardio is something that, to me, cardio is more about heart rate than it is about activity. So if you're walking around, your heart rate's still probably 80 or 90 beats or 70, like depending how big you are, right? That's not really cardio to me, because it's not like, oh, I walked 1,000,000 steps today, but I walked 1 step every second. Like, it's not, or every, it just doesn't compute that way. Like, you have to get your heart rate up to 120 beats per minute, 130, 140, or if you're doing interval training, it's going to get up to 220, 200. You're gonna that's how you burn fat. It's not a matter of, well, I walked 8 miles, but it took me 8 hours to do it. It's not. That's not really going to help you burn fat as much as it's not the accumulation of cardio. It's partially the intensity of cardio and the duration in which that intensity is done. So if you said my heart rate was 120, but it was only 120 for a minute, and then it was 80 for the next 10 minutes, it's not going to burn as much fat as if it was 120 for the full 10 minutes. See what I'm saying? What do you Jacob KB says, what do you think is the minimal effective amount of sleep one could get to grow? I think it's going to vary from person to person, but I think 6 to 8 hours is required. I think if you're getting 2 or 3 hours, you're going to have a lot of issues. Lil Gary 501 says trap raises with more than 315 or just two out to failure. No, I think you should trap raises with as much weight as you can handle for 8 to 10 reps. Olan Ervik says, what do you think about finasteride to prevent hair loss? I think it works very well. For those of you who don't know, finasteride is also known as Propecia or Proscar. It worked very well for me. There are some other indicators, though, that there's some side effects. So I would check with your doctor first before using it. They have a new form of finasteride out called Avodart. I think it does the same thing, but without the side effects. So I would check with your doctor before you go ahead with anything like that. Damian Kalade says, for someone planning out a diet, how would you go about creating a calorie deficit? We kind of went over this earlier in the Q&A. You have to find your calories for the day. Use the William Harris Benedict equation, and that you can plug in your numbers there, and it will give you how many calories you're allowed to take in for the day. Once you find that out, just drop it by 100 or 2, and then just see how long it takes. Just stay focused at that level for a few weeks, and you'll start to see changes. Stumpy Macbeth says, between Fouad. Okay, I'm gonna skip this one. Sorry, guys. Smoke Sun says, how often do you use recovery modalities, stretching, foam rolling, meditation? Not as much as I should. Not as much as I should, to be honest with you. I've started to do it more now, but I probably should have did it more when I was younger. For those of you who have time, I would make time actually for 15 minutes after every workout and do some stretching and mobility work. I always do some mobility work before I start training now. I always kind of loosen up my shoulders and do some stuff with my shoulders to get them kind of ready. But I would also do, 15, 20 minutes of stretching post-workout. It will help you guys, for those of you who are, interested in a long-term career. It will help you into your later years if you start doing it now. Desktop Bodybuilding says, do you vary tempos when lifting? For example, doing some movements with super slow, concentric, or eccentric, or vice versa? I generally have one speed. Press really hard on the concentric, squeeze really hard at the peak, and control the eccentric. It doesn't mean slow on the eccentric. It just means control. I don't ever drop the weight on the eccentric unless it's purposely done as a sloppy, this is my all-out sloppy set, I don't care, then I might drop. But even then, I try to still have control with the eccentric. There are some workouts, if I want to feel something different, I'll slow everything down. I usually never slow down the concentric, though. I feel like the muscle needs that explosive force to cause trauma on the concentric. I may do a long squeeze at the peak, or I may do a really slow eccentric, but I usually always do a powerful concentric movement. So, but that's really few and far between. My training doesn't have, me and Luke used to talk about this all the time. My training doesn't have a lot of gimmicks to it. There's not a lot of shit. Like there's maybe some drop sets, some, maybe some supersets here and there, but there's not a lot of gimmicks. Like your training doesn't need to be so complex that you're training changing rep speeds, and somebody was asking earlier about, when to add weight, when not to add weight. Like just train your ass off. And then it's like, find a system that works for you. Like my system works for me. That's why I don't change it. I'm not saying everybody should do my system, but I don't feel like I need to change training because this is a system I've been doing since I was 20, and it got me to the Olympia stage, and it got me to, I put on 70 pounds of contest muscle. So stage weight muscle. So I don't really need to change my training in all these various ways, right? I've changed it in the last 5 years only to remain healthy, not because I thought it would put on more muscle. So I don't do all these like gimmicky things with my training. A lot of times it's very just simple and straightforward. Ishan says, and it says by the way, how long is the time span between the end of your bulk and the stepping on stage? What things change from week to week as you get ready for a show? That's a very involved question. Like it's a long question to talk about all the things that would change, but usually I need 12 to 16 weeks. So from the time my bulk season ends to the time I get on stage is 12 to 16 weeks, depending on how hard my bulk was. If I got a little bit sloppier than I would like in my bulk, I need 16 weeks. If I was still pretty lean at the end of my bulk, I can do it in 12 weeks. And usually what it consists of is just a reduction in calories from 12 all the way to 0. So if I start bulking at 12 weeks, the main thing that changes in those 12 weeks is my calories may start at 4,000 at 12 weeks, and by the end, I might be at 2,000. So there's a constant reduction in calories to get my body fat lower, 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 lower until I'm shredded and ready to go on stage. That's the main thing that happens in those 12 weeks. I am Big T says, what are the different parts of a prep and how much time is in each? It's a little bit weird to answer because their different parts of a prep are like each week you're going to reduce calories, right? Usually, unless your body is burning fat really quickly, then you might keep them the same. But that's usually how it goes. There's not really different parts of a prep. And I don't really know how to answer the question, to be honest with you. There's like a week, usually a week of a prep, and you take a look and you go, okay, I think this week I'm going to reduce some calories. And there's another week. So each part, I guess, if you had to answer the question, each part is a week long. And then you assess and you make the changes you need and you go forward. Josh Zilla 79 says, given the progressive overload trumps all, how important do you think periodization and techniques like Y3T can be in strength and physique gains? I think periodization is important because of more for recovery and health than anything. I think if you're healthy and you're strong and your body is functioning properly, I don't think there's a reason for periodization. I think you just go and you keep on overloading, and I would do that until my body told me. Once I started feeling like my gains were dropping, like I couldn't overload the muscle, I wasn't gaining any strength, I wasn't gaining any reps, I wasn't increasing volume, my weight wasn't gaining, like everything was stopped gaining. Like I couldn't lift anything, my reps weren't increasing, um my appetite was crushed, like everything is just stagnant. Then it's time to take that deload week, right? Now, if you're not a functioning, super healthy lifter, but you can lift heavy, I think that's the time when you need that periodization, right? Let's say you have, for example, you have bad elbows, right? And if you lift heavy one week, your elbows might get sore. So if you try and lift heavy again the next week, they just get more and more and more sore each week. That's the kind of person that needs periodization, because what happens is you can train heavy one week and then train like at a moderate tempo, moderate weight the next week, and give your elbows a chance to heal up. Train with a little more volume, a little less weight, give that elbow joint a chance to heal up, and then go back to the heavy stuff the week after. That way you're not just torturing that elbow every single week. So I'm just using the elbow as an example, but that's one reason why periodization is good. But as I said in the beginning, if you're a completely healthy person, you have no issues, no tendencies, no soreness, no nothing, I don't think you need to do periodization unless once your body tells you to, you start to pull back a bit, give it a rest, and then move forward again. Neil's baby says mixed grip on racks pulls or Does a mixed grip on rack pulls cause lat imbalance? I wouldn't do a mixed grip unless I was a powerlifter. If you're a bodybuilder, you're trying to get bigger and stronger and you're using rack pulls for that reason, just do a double overhand grip. You don't need to do a mixed grip. Mixed grip is for power lifters. They're trying to lift as much weight as they can, and they're doing it any way possible. They're not worried about balances or imbalances or anything like that. So I don't see a reason to do a mixed grip unless you're a power lifter. IGN for you says one arm is bigger but not as strong as the other arm, gets pumped so quick. Best strategy to build up that arm. Let me read this again. I'm sorry, guys. One arm is bigger but not as strong, and that arm gets a pump so quick. So you have a bad arm. So I have that too. I would just say, like, I do extra reps with my left arm because it's smaller than my right arm. Like if I'm doing single arm dumbbell, I do a lot of single arm stuff too, because that's going to actually help me focus on the arm I need to focus on. Because if I just do a barbell row or barbell curl or something, it's my strong arm is just going to take over and it's going to keep the imbalance there. So I do a lot of single arm stuff, number one. But number two, I might do 3, 4, 5 extra reps to try and get more blood pumped into the arm that's not working as well. Boggs Lifting says, are abs mostly genetic? I notice some pros don't train them as frequently or at all, and others do. What's your take on this? I think you probably don't see pros training abs ever because it's not an exciting thing to post on Instagram. But I also think you're right that not a lot of pros do train abs. So, or some pros don't train abs. I do think it's partially, like, you're going to train abs when you're training. When you're lifting weights, your abs are constantly contracting. So some lifters get away with that. This genetically, they have a small waist and their abs are working while they're lifting. So they end up with an ab structure that's okay. And if they have a good genetic structure, they don't need to do any more to add to it. But I think the ones that you see training abs are the ones that have the best waists. And I don't mean as far as the size of them. I mean as far as the detail and conditioning in the waist. I think you have to train abs, whether it be doing vacuums, whether it be doing planks, whether it be doing just weighted crunches, whatever you're doing. I think the guys that actually spend time and train abs actually have more detail in their midsection. I think when you talk about width of a waist, how wide a waist is, or where the abs are staggered, that's, I think, is really a genetic thing too, because the size of your hips is gonna determine the width of your waist. So, like, I genetically have a wide waist. Even if you go all the way back to my very first show, my obliques are a little bit thicker. It's just the way it is for me. And the way your abs are staggered, some people have like that perfect line. Mine are staggered pretty well, and some people they're a little uneven. That kind of stuff is genetic. But as far as the detail and how shredded someone's abs look, I think the people who train them more get a better look out of them. T Fitness 98 says, huge inspiration on my journey. What was your favorite pre and post workout food you find yourself never getting tired of? So pre, I always like to do something that's not going to sit in my stomach. So usually, as cliche as it sounds, chicken and rice, fish and rice, usually not very high in fat, some small amount of fat, if any. And that's usually my pre-workout. It's usually not a big meal. It's like 6 ounces of chicken, 1 or 1.5 cups of rice, with like a teaspoon of coconut oil, right? That might be a pre-workout meal, something that's going to digest really quickly, and it's not going to bother me when I'm training. Post-workout, I like to do something. If I'm bulking, my post-workout meal, probably rice, pasta, and ground beef. My favorite. I can eat like a massive ton of it. I feel like it refuels my body right away, and it's my go-to every single time. If I'm dieting, obviously going to be fish, chicken, steak, and it could be rice, potato. It's the same meals. They're just going to be bigger, right? And when you're bulking, you can kind of do some variation. When you're dieting, it's not going to be much variation. It's going to be smaller versus bigger. So My pre-workout meal is always a little smaller. My post-workout meal is always, I want to say, my biggest meal of the day. Yatsomar says, what did you find most difficult when starting a business? Education. I think education is the hardest thing if you're doing something different, especially. Okay. So for example, let's use a supplement company, because that's the business I'm doing now. The biggest thing about the supplement company that's different is there are so many supplement companies that are out there that you have to try and set yourself apart. So how did we do that? We did it with our formula. Our formula is what sets us apart, in my opinion. I haven't seen any formulas like ours. There's some that are similar, but not. I think I really am confident that our formulas are one of the best, if not the best, out there. And the problem with that, you think it would be easy, right? You're like, oh, well, you have the best formula, no problem. Everyone's going to buy it. The problem with that is it's educating the consumer on why it's the best, right? Things like we use NO3T, and we use high doses of all the ingredients. We use, just Pico 2 instead of beta alanine. So in this industry, for example, there are certain ingredients that are triggers in someone's mind, right? Like beta alanine. A lot of people know, everyone knows what beta alanine is. It gives me the itchy feeling and it makes me feel like I want to train. Beta alanine, very, very popular. Oh, it's for endurance. I know that ingredient. I heard of that ingredient. Caffeine. Everyone knows caffeine. Oh, it's in coffee, whatever. Everyone knows caffeine. It's for energy, right? Citrulline has become very popular. Everybody knows citrulline. Oh, look, it's got 6 grams of citrulline. The education comes into play when you say, is it citrulline or is it citrulline malate? Right? Now I have to teach you that citrulline malate is only half of what citrulline is. Whereas citrulline itself is pure. So 6 grams of citrulline is not equal to 6 grams of citrulline malate. Citrulline malate is only 3 grams of citrulline in it. So this is where the disparity comes in. I have to explain to the consumer why our stuff is better. What's NO3T? Nobody uses NO3T. Exactly my point. It is a way to deliver arginine to the body in a different pathway than it is citrulline. So you're going to get an even better pump, but nobody knows about it. So the biggest challenge for me in my business is saying, look, I found this amazing ingredient none of you know about. Here, I want you to try it. And that is the biggest thing. And then obviously the third hurdle is, well, you have alpha GPC, but so does that company. Yeah, but that company's using 150 milligrams. We're using 600 milligrams. Like, so that's the other disparity is, well, they use citrulline and they use alpha GPC and they use Pico 2 and yeah, but they're using half the dose. And then it doesn't no longer becomes clinical. Because if somebody says citrulline gives you a great pump, but only at 6 grams, and the company's brand that you're using says 3 grams, well, that clinical comment of citrulline gives you a great pump is no longer applicable because you've only got 3 grams of it. So the biggest hurdle in starting this business, this specific business, and the way we decided to launch our brand, the biggest hurdle has been explaining to the consumer why our stuff feels so good. Because we get reviews like, great, oh, this is the best pre-workout I've ever had. It's amazing. I feel great. Now I have to teach everybody why that it's happening. And it's very evident if you pay attention, you look at the labels, you get a very clear idea of why. But just getting that information out there is a little bit harder it's going to take time. Key Tessie says, how do you fellas typically sleep? I used to lay on my front with my head on my arms, but my shoulders hurt like hell, so I try sleeping on my side. I'm getting very poor sleep now. How do you sleep? How do you all sleep and why? I would suggest you see your doctor, and I would suggest getting a CPAP machine or an APAP machine, which is basically a breathing apparatus. It will allow you to sleep on your back, and that's the biggest plus for me. So I have a CPAP machine. I can't sleep on my back because I always feel like I'm swallowing my tongue. It wakes me up every time, right? But with the CPAP, I put the CPAP on my nose, and it keeps my mouth shut. So if you snore, first of all, your wife is happy because now all of a sudden you don't snore anymore. And I can also sleep on my back, which is really good for my back because my back bothers me when I sleep on my stomach. So with the CPAP machine, I'm able to sleep on my back, which makes my back feel amazing, which will probably also help your shoulder. So I would look at getting a CPAP machine or an APAP machine. APAP are the newest versions of them where they regulate to your own breathing. And that will help you change. It's going to be an adjustment period of like, oh, this feels like shit having this thing on my face while I'm sleeping. But once you get through that phase, you're going to notice that your sleep is better and you don't have to sleep on your stomach or your side or whatever. RC Burrell says, are you considering a health subs like zinc, omegas, magnesium? Yes, we are. I'm actually considering putting together a fully dosed vitamin mineral pack or powder, one or the other. Dave Nutt says, has your launch of the supplements and apparel this week exceeded your expectations? Well, obviously we're a few weeks late from when we put this Q&A up. So I can tell you now, the launch has been incredible and we definitely exceeded our expectations. And what's even better than the launch being great is the feedback has been great. That's like my favorite part of all of this is not that we got the stuff sold. It's that the person that bought it has messaged me and said, this shit is incredible. And that's the part that actually makes me happier than the fact that we sold it, is that the feedback came back and it was amazing. So yeah, no, we're extremely happy with how things are going. Let's see here. Mike Callison says, better for growth, more volume or heavier weight? I'm going to blow your mind. Both. If you can do heavy weight with high volume, you're going to grow the most. Danny Brooks says, if you're in the earlier stages of serious training, is it more important to first get your body composition in check, calorie deficit to lower body fat, or focus on growing and being in a calorie surplus? It depends on your goals. Look, if you don't have, like, if it's not the summertime's rolling around, you want to be on a beach or whatever, if time is no issue, in my opinion, you should start eating clean and training your ass off, and your body will burn that fat as you grow into the weight. Okay. If you have a deadline of some sort, or if you're in a rush and you want to look better while you're growing, then yeah, I think you could do a mini cut or a small cut, lose some weight, and then start a bulk. My personal opinion is I would just start on a clean diet that's a little bit of a surplus and take my time and grow into my weight. If I'm 225 pounds and I'm chubby, I'm not going to lose 25 pounds and then start gaining weight. I'm just going to say, you know what? It depends. Okay, wait, let me say, it depends how chubby, right? If you're over 20% body fat, yes, I think it's more beneficial to get down to, 15, 17% before you start trying to like increase your food. But if you're 15 to 20% in there or even lower, I don't see any need to cut. I would just clean your diet up, get rid of all the junk, and just train as hard as you can and grow into the weight that you're sitting at. SSB Scott says, my grip strength sucks. Any advice there? I've been using lifting straps less, but feel like I have no grip. I'm not sure why you need grip strength. We're not power lifters. I've used straps my whole life. My whole lifting life. When I train back, if I'm doing barbell rows, if I'm doing dumbbell rows, if I'm doing T-bar rows with any heavy kind of weight, I'm strapped up. So I don't put my straps on until I get to those heavy sets, but I don't see like I'm not bothered by the fact that my grip strength isn't the best in the world. I don't really care as long as I can work the muscle I want to work. Gregory Boy 17 says, would you make a video about how to start a supplement company? There's not really a video to make. You just find a manufacturer and have some knowledge about what you're doing. And I mean, there's so many, the video would be like 10 hours long. I don't know where to start with that. It's kind of a tough one to make. Okay, guys, last question. Hunter Gun 7 says, Recently tore an ab during a home workout. Not a serious tear, but I will be out of the gym for a couple weeks. Any tips on getting past it mentally and easing back into training? If you really tore it and you have an ultrasound, like if you do an ultrasound and the ultrasound shows that it's torn, I would get PRP done, which is plasma injection therapy. PRP stands for platelet-rich plasma. So what they do is they take the blood out of your body. They withdraw. They withdraw. I said that wrong. They don't take all the blood out of your body. I think it's like 5 cc's. I think they withdraw 5 or 10 cc's of blood. They spin it in a centrifuge, and they separate the blood platelets from the rest, and they re-inject the blood platelets into the tear, and it heals the tear faster and stronger, and it will get you back to work sooner. So I suggest that if you can, if you have it in your area, if you have somewhere in your area you can go, or if you ask your doctor for it. Otherwise, I suggest just resting. If you tore a muscle, if it's actually torn, I think you should get an ultrasound personally, just to know that it's torn and how bad it's torn. And then if it's really torn, then I would take, the 4 weeks off and you have to rest. And ice, I would do a lot of ice. I would make sure my diet is 100% on point, and I would try and get it to heal that way. And then obviously after 3 or 4 weeks of rest, I would start back very, very slowly, and let pain be your director. If you're feeling pain when you're doing something, don't do it. Let the muscle completely heal. If you're doing something and you feel no pain, it's not involving your abs at all, then you're probably okay to keep going with it. So that's kind of what I would do in your return. Okay, guys, that's pretty much all the questions. We've been on for about an hour or more, I think. And I appreciate you guys getting the questions. I'm really sorry for taking so long to get through them. I hope you guys benefit from them, and we'll do these again soon. We have some new members coming onto the Hosstile team. I may get them to do some Q&As for me. That way you guys get different perspectives on all your questions. So anyway, thank you very much, guys, for your time and patience in getting these Q&As back. I appreciate everything you guys do for us, and I appreciate all the support you've been giving us with your feedback on the products. Until next time, train hard, stay focused, and we'll be back.